Hey, this is Corey Barnes.
And this is Lisa Caperton. And you're listening to Her Turn to Talk,
a podcast about women.
For women. Can I tell you something real quick?
Yeah.
Do you know I'm afraid of birds?
I think I do.
Okay.
I faintly
I mean, I have many, what some people may call irrational fears. They're not irrational to me. But I am afraid of birds. And I think I have one that's stalking me. Like a particular bird. And I have a picture of the bird.
I have a picture. Let's see this picture.
So the other day, I was outside brushing Katie, and so, you know, she has a lot of long hair. That's my dog. And so I had to brush her on the back deck because it's so much hair. And this bird was, like, perched on the balcony just watching me the whole time. I've seen it, like, in my backyard. It's always staring at me. Well, yesterday, I got out of the shower, and I shower upstairs.
It's a warning dove.
The warning dove.
Morning.
Oh my God, it's sending me a warning.
Wait, but now, is it morning or morning dove?
Well, God, I
Is
hope
it like
it's
a
not
morning
like the
dove? Like it's sad?
bird of death.
I thought it was like a good morning dove. Okay, keep
But
going.
anyways, yeah, so my blinds are open because we're in the 2-story house. It's upstairs. And it was like, seriously, just watching me through my window the whole time. Like, I took a shower, I got dressed, and
It looks like a creep.
It's creeping on me, and I've been attacked by birds, multiples of birds, and I feel like this one is out to get me. I'll post a picture on Instagram.
Oh, it's a morning dove, like sad.
Oh, well,
What? I've always thought it was
some,
the morning, like good morning, I'm a dove.
I don't know. I hope it's not some ominous warning. I thought are pigeons and doves the same thing? I don't know.
Very similar.
Anyways,
Yeah, might as well be the same thing.
Do you want me to tell you about a badass woman?
Yes.
Okay. My badass woman is badass. You'll have to go Google her and listen to her music. Her name is Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Have you ever heard of her?
No.
I hadn't either. But apparently she's a very essential figure in the history of rock and roll.
She looks badass.
She's pretty badass.
Plays an electric guitar.
She does. She plays the electric guitar. And so she became famous in like 1938. She had a record called Rock Me. And so she was a star all through like the 40s. She was a black woman who sang gospel music while playing her electric guitar. And she was howling and stamping, and like you can watch YouTube videos of her, and she's got such personality.
She's fierce.
She is. I mean, and it's so awesome. And her like guitar skills are like legit.
Wow.
And she was one of it says that she was credited as the first gospel song to ever cross over to what's now called the R&B charts.
Wow.
She once was an inspiration for people like Little Richard. In fact, he came to one of her concerts as a kid, and she heard him singing, and she brought him on stage to sing with her. And then afterwards, she paid him for it, and so that made him. And it made him inspire to be, in music.
Wow.
But she inspired people such as Johnny Cash, Chuck Berry, Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis. All these guys were inspired by this totally badass woman. I think I just did a Google search. I was searching like women in, music, and she came up. She eventually did pass away of a stroke in 1970.
The diabetes. The beaties.
But I do suggest if you get a chance.
One of her legs was amputated.
Yeah, pretty sad. But I suggest absolutely if you get a chance. Actually, just before I came over here, I was listening to one of her YouTube and watching her sing, and it's called "The Train" is the song. It's pretty funny. It's like, we don't take no guitar or cigar smokers on the train. It's a clean train. Like all this stuff. It's pretty good. I have no singing ability.
She almost looks like she could be like the Beyonce of 1950.
I know. Maybe she inspired Beyonce too. Who knows? But she's pretty damn badass.
Times were different back then.
I know. And so
segregation was definitely happening back then.
She's awesome. She has her, like, I'm not kidding. Like, she comes on stage, she has a big, and they said it was steel guitar, and she can just wail at it, and her voice is absolutely amazing. Huh. So I thought she was fitting since
Yeah.
this week we actually are speaking with, on this episode, we're speaking with another badass woman in the music industry, Mrs. Rebecca Folsom. Is it Mrs. or Miss? I can't remember. She's married, so
Ms.
whichever one that's supposed to be married, that's her. But she is...
That's her original name, though.
Total badass woman in music. She's an artist. She's a painter.
Phenomenal.
She's a poet. Inspirational. Beautiful, beautiful, sexy woman. She's amazing. So we hope you enjoy this week's episode with Rebecca Folsom. Check out our page on our website. You can see pictures of her, and we'll have links to the episode up there for you. HerTurnToTalkPodcast.com, and please listen to us wherever you find your podcast and rate, review, and subscribe.
So if you're lost, come tender when all your fight is gone. Surrender to only kindness, only kindness.
Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful.
It's so good. Oh, Rebecca.
I feel so starstruck.
I need tissues.
Good.
Yeah.
Knowing, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and you know the story.
Knowing people who can write lyrics, it's just there.
Yeah.
You just have it, right?
Well, and you were so beautiful in it.
It is it's watching I don't know. It's just, I don't have that, and I want that. I want that.
Yeah.
And so, oh my gosh.
I feel like we just saw your soul coming out of your body. I feel so privileged to witness that, because it was beautiful, and you're beautiful, and
thank you for just, I needed my eyes closed just to get into it, because it's so new.
Yeah.
It's like other ones like
right there.
well, what is the name of this song?
That one's called Only Kindness.
Only Kindness. And it's from a new album?
It's going to go on a new one. Yeah. The new one that we're recording now and going to release in April.
In April.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw...
Loved it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I started the music.
Thank you for just being here, and just... you're just such a ray of light. And what was the inspiration behind that song?
A couple of years of experience, actually, but really kind of tipped off with my husband was diagnosed with cancer, and it really was from a moment. It's like sometimes I take songs just from a moment, and then write the whole song from that. And they were wheeling him into surgery, and there it was risk. It was high risk, and it did turn out that it actually was high risk. He ran into some problems in the surgery, and it did get sketchy. But and he looked at me and gave me a kiss, and it was like it could inspire a whole album, honestly, that moment. But and it was. It just was the one that looked at me, and he looked at me like, this could be it. And we've had a good run. Yeah. So.
I mean, you guys have been together for a very long time.
Yeah. 40 years in December.
That's right.
That's amazing. And how is he today?
He's actually on the up and up, which is really good. And they're saying they think they got everything that they needed to, but it's always with cancer, it's always kind of wait and see. So he's doing 3-month checkups, but he's not having to do chemo, which is great.
Do you find, because I feel like what Corey said, people who can write lyrics and write music, and like you're so multi-talented and paint and write poems, and do you find inspiration in all the emotions?
In everything.
Yeah.
I mean, even just walking in and seeing your face, it was just feeling inspired by your face. It was like you have such a glow and an innocence, and yet a road weary, like a combination of that.
Yeah.
If I was to paint you, I would want to paint that. And if I was to write you, it would be something in that way. So it's I think, pearls are happening all the time. There's we're just always learning to make sure we write them down,
And so is that what
writers.
you do? Is that how you remember moments, is okay, I'm going to write this down so I can come back to this.
Yeah, I have, like, I always carry my songwriting book with me, my journal, and my recording device, because you never know when something's going to come. And in the beginning of that, I have a fragment section. So I just write down, like, ooh, that was a firefly. You know, that was a little light thing that was cool. So those get put there, and then I'll take them and work them later. Yeah.
Has music always come to you, as long as you can remember?
You know, as a little kid, just like every other little kid, you know, this old man. Loved it. Sure, it's great. But it was weird. My mom said that I got like really withdrawn around like 4 or 5, and then she took me to music lessons when I was about 5 and a half, and then she said I came alive again. And it's funny because it's like my first time of ever being in the newspaper was that first music class, and they're just showing us like little paper pianos that we're playing, and I'm just like, I'm looking at the camera like, oh my God, like my eyes
like,
are all bugged out. I'm just like, wow, you know, music. So I think, you know, music has really like saved me, like saved my soul on a lot of levels, just to digest life and digest it through songs, and digest it over and over again. You know, so like even singing that song again is like, oh, right, you know, just all the experience of it. And
when I was like, you know, I have, my younger son, he's 11, and nobody in our family is musically inclined at all, except for him. But it's something that we saw even as a baby. It was like we were in the grocery store, anywhere. It was like music turned something on, and he would just dance and smile, and you could tell he just loved it. And he's a drummer, and so he's constantly got the rhythm going, clapping the hands, doing the stuff. And so we have him in drum lessons, and he does jazz band at school now and regular band, so he's
nurturing
drumming all the time. And we have the drums in our living room, and people are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, but with him, I'm like, it sounds like music, and so it's not bad to have the noise, you know what I mean, because it sounds nice. But even with him, I just watch him, like, I don't know how it just
came.
It just came, and it just works.
I think some people think in music.
Yeah.
You know, that's, I mean, Corey, you sing too, right? Yeah. So I imagine you have some of that too, where it's like, you know, you hear the song and it just goes in a whole different way.
Yes.
And,
Yes. I can memorize lyrics really well. Real fast.
Yeah.
Writing, I'll have to talk to you more about the writing lyrics, because I'm really intrigued by that. And Travis and I have been actually working together because he produces music, and so we're just playing around. But my very good girlfriend Tony, what you described, just to loop back around, what you described about how the lyrics come to you and you have to have a recording device in your journal, that is exactly what it is for her. And she was just sharing this with me, and she started recording herself on YouTube. And so to hear, because I kept thinking, okay, I can sing and I can memorize, but where can I find this thing in me that wants to write lyrics? It's in there, but it's like, I think I need to tap into to hear that you have that gift, because it really is a gift. It's so exciting.
Don't you teach?
I do.
Yeah,
that's right. That's
I teach writing
and
workshops.
there's, like you've been describing, like this fire that comes from it. And I love how your perspective of just the world in general and walking around, where there's just these pearls, right?
Everywhere.
Like, what a beautiful way to look through. Probably intense too sometimes, but this lens of like this world of just creative everywhere you look. So that's just
everywhere you look, there's
really
a story.
Neat. Yeah,
you know, or there's some depth. Again, that scratch the surface kind of idea of like, ooh, you know, what happened there?
Yeah.
Like how did that all come together?
Sure.
Yeah.
And so how you've been doing this? Remind me, how many years?
Well, you know, I actually started doing it when I was young, so and was kind of ahead of my time at that time, where I was writing my own stuff and competing. They had it was called Star Search, I think is what it was,
With Ed McMahon.
No, Stars of Tomorrow. That was what it was, Stars of Tomorrow. So it was like a very, very funky version of like American Idol, you know, like in the 70s. And and so doing that and competing and writing my own songs, and then I stopped entirely, and stopped because my life just got completely out of control. And dangerous, and you know, it just really turned into one of those things of like, it was not a time to draw attention to myself, because when a lot happened. We'll just put it that way. And in that lot happening, it wasn't for another, gosh, I was 27 when I came back to it. So I kind of felt like I came back late. So that was really about 13 years of not doing music, not singing. And
was that really
it was
hard
painful. Yeah.
So-
I mean, in a way, I didn't even know it was painful. It became painful more when I realized that I needed to
Right.
I need to get back. I think I became so numb and closed down around my voice. The first song that came out for me, I wrote in a therapy session, and it's called A Woman's Voice, and it's an a cappella tune. And it really was about, because why I shut up, was because, one, I ended up on the street. I ended up homeless because my parents split, in the 70s. And and I ended up in situations where it was, quiet, just be quiet, because then I wouldn't get in trouble. And getting in trouble meaning a 14-year-old girl out on the street, you can do the math. You can put all that together, like how that would be dangerous. And so I just learned to stuff myself in, and I already was pretty like living out loud kind of person. Like that's naturally what I do. Like, yay, let's live, and that sort of curling in and being quiet happened for a while. And, some of it, like some of my coming out of that came, I began to expand, one, by raising my kids, because I could champion them in a way that I couldn't champion myself. And, one thing that kind of blows my mind is like, I just didn't think of myself as that strong of a person. I mean, yes, I was, but I wasn't acting that way. And my kids, we were walking down the road, and they were probably like 3 and 4. And this pack of dogs came running at us, and I picked up a stick. I mean, without even thinking, I picked up a stick and I went running at this pack of dogs, and yelling like crazy, and they were like, with their tails between their heads, like they ran off. And I went, whoa, I didn't even know
You're
I
like
had
a half
that
hour.
in me, So, and, another one happened like that with my daughter. She was about 13, and she jumped out of a boat. We were water skiing, and she jumped out of the boat, and when she did, she caught her swimsuit on the side of the boat, and so it ripped her swimsuit. And at 13, and totally self-conscious.
Oh yeah.
And so she's in the water, and she's drowning. Like, she is so freaked out and self-conscious about it and I don't know how I did. Honestly, to this day, I can't quite figure out how it happened. But I jumped out of the seat, somehow found a towel, and leaned over the boat, pulled a 130-pound girl out of the water, wrapped her in a towel, and put her in my lap.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
Superhuman.
how could you do that? So there was something that happened in that for me around the kids. It was like, wow, if I can do this for them, maybe I could do it for myself.
Yeah, I understand that, because it's like, you have to do that, because you're like, I have to protect them.
Yeah.
And then I think it's almost kind of builds, for me too, I have similar, these experiences of being closed in and being small. I had a lot of stuff happen to me as a child, and it was just pretend you're asleep, or just don't make noise, you're not here. And it's like, yes, like having kids, and you have to have a voice because they can't, and you have to protect them. But then it also builds this confidence in you that you're like, oh yeah, I am powerful, and I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah, there was another like kind of formative thing for me. I signed up my daughter for model mugging when she was about 16, because she was starting to drive to a job, and I was like, I don't want her to be raped. It was like that had happened to me, and it was like, I'm going to protect my daughter. And so I signed her up for these model mugging classes. I was going to take it with her, so she'd be, confident. We're in it together. And when it came close, she was totally freaked out by it. She was just like, I do not want to do this. And I so wanted to. I was just like, a part of me really wanted healing around all that. And so she dropped out, and I took the course, and it was so empowering. It was, to yell and stand up for myself.
So is this kind of like a self-defense?
It's a self-defense class, but it's one of those where they wear like big padding and suits, and you're supposed to like kick with all force and yell and like really get into the sort of adrenalized, like altered state of attack, and act in a different way rather than freezing, or flailing, which is what a lot of women do, and I did, in those old days, was freeze.
Yeah.
So to come out of my freeze was so powerful. And to this day, I was walking down the street, like it was late after a gig, and I got that sort of hair up on your, like, uh-oh, walk a little faster, something's up, and then I had this feeling come over me, like, no frickin' problem, It was like I could feel that it's like, I know that they messed with the wrong woman, if that's what happened. So I would really recommend those courses.
I do want to take one. I've been hitting Corey up about taking them. I'm like, we need to do a self-defense class.
It's a powerful experience. Powerful experience. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you found? I know you like to trail run. Is there anything else like that? Being able to. You were talking about becoming unfrozen, right?
Yeah.
What else has become therapeutic, or exercise, something like that? The trail running. I know you talked about mentioned
physical
that.
Like that is great. It's funny as you say that. I just think of like
right,
wiggling. I'm also one of the things I do for my job is I'm a coach. I'm a transformational coach, and one of the mentors that I studied with, her name is Katie Hendricks, and she is astounding. I mean, she's just, I feel so honored to be one of her students. And she is student and peer, and she came up with something called fear melters, and I teach them.
I watched your video on YouTube.
Aren't they fabulous? Yeah. So they're basically taking like 4 ways that we hold fear in our bodies: freeze, flee, fight, and faint. And then having these ways to move your body to come out of a fear signature.
The opposite of it.
Yeah.
The opposite movement.
And what's cool is you don't have to think about it. You actually go through the body to make the shift. And it creates then the chemical shift out of fear. So you get out of the adrenalized state. And, for teaching people public speaking and performance, it's really great because that everybody gets into fear signatures with being on.
Right, sure.
So fear melters by Katie Hendricks are like fabulous, really fabulous.
Yeah.
So that's one way. And then, yes, I love living in Colorado and running the trails.
And we've bumped into you more than once.
That's right.
That's right, because you love
we do. And I do. I love it when I see, my other women out there and see, people out there. I'm like, yes, we're out here. We're
and you
it.
you suit up, tie the laces, and you just go off on your own usually, right?
Yeah, often. I mean, I love to go with friends too, but I love going by myself.
Yeah.
And I never take my phone or anything like that. I just like, this is a time to just commune.
And will you zone out, or do you kind of, is that when the creative juices start flowing?
Definitely, I do a lot of writing while I'm running. Yeah, that and thinking about things like, I need to deal with that, or like we all do.
Yeah.
And then just taking in the beauty, the sheer beauty of it, and the air. And
how long have you been doing that?
Running? Mm-hmm. I first started when I was 13, and so running here at Chautauqua, I was thinking about it. It's been many years of these trails being
That's
my
right.
little...
You're a Colorado native.
I am a Colorado
Born and raised.
That's right.
80030, right?
80302. Yeah. The zip code I've never moved out of.
Yeah.
It's been great.
So you also do poetry and you paint, and I think you're doing some other new kind of medium as well. Did you say
oil tainting? What is that?
A painting.
Oh, is it painting?
It's a misspell.
I was like,
what's that? Some new thing?
An oil tainter. She taints the oils and changes the colors like an OPI.
How do you Okay, so I'm not, and I think maybe I'm like getting these familiarities in your story of. Because I do remember doing art and like doing things as a young child, and like you said, a lot of stuff happened, and I never really went back to that stuff. And so now in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm not artistic. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so people with artistic abilities, it fascinates me of like, where do you get this idea and what's your inspiration? When are you see something and you're like, I want to write that, or I need to paint that, or I need to, sing about that. Like, do they all go together? Do you write a song and then paint a picture all together about one thing?
Yeah, cool question. for years I always separated them. So I would come off the road, I'd finish touring an album, and then I would be like, okay, great, now I'm going to write poems, or now I'm going to paint for a show. Or even it happens like not so much in my conscious control. When my mom died, now 3 years ago, I couldn't write a song for the life of me. I could not. It was so weird. I went 9 months without writing a thing. And I kept saying to myself, like, don't worry, honey. It's okay. It'll come back, it'll come. And, but I painted like crazy. And I ended up doing this whole series called Overflowing Grace, because my mom was always into like, grace will get us through. And she wasn't a real like boots on the ground traction kind of person. She was, it'll all work out, kind of thing. And so grace actually really, really helped her. That was a big tool for her. And she loved beauty. So she was always like flowers and, things like that. So it was a homage to her, with all these beautiful flower arrangements that I painted. So, so that was interesting. It happened that way. Another time, I just decided I was going to put them all together. So I did an album called Reunion, and I painted a painting and wrote a poem for every song, and then put the little poetry book inside the CD jacket. And then the paintings are in there too. And it was crazy. I mean, I thought, oh, this is cool. I'll just do that, and then I'll do the next, But what happened is I opened 3 creative spigots all at the same time, and I just didn't sleep. It was like,
just going to ask.
Yeah, it was like, it was crazy. And I literally was like at my easel painting with my guitar on. I'd be like, wow. Oh yeah, and then I'd paint, and then I'd be like, oh yeah, I write that down, and for the poems, and so, and it really was, and I ended up with like 34 paintings because really the muse, said to me, oh, for that song, instead of it just being one painting, I want 3 4-foot by 5-foots. And I'd be like, whoa, really, why, But I've learned to not question my relationship with the muse.
Yeah.
And it all made sense in the end, and it always does. That we did the CD release at E-Town, and those 3 for that song were the backdrop behind me on the stage. So, and they were gorgeous. It was like perfect. And, another one was 10 little birds, 8-inch by 10-inch, and that was one song. And so, sometimes, I don't know, I saw this cartoon once about creative arc, and it starts with the artist like at the beginning going, oh, that's a great idea. How cool is that? Let's do that. And then you get further in the arc and you're like, oh, this might take a little more work than I thought. And then the desperate artist, just like, oh my God, I'll never make it. What was I thinking? And then, the plant, you got it, and it all worked out. So.
And what does that emotion feel like when you're done? At the end of that, do you have grief that it's over? Or are you elated that it's over?
Yeah, that's a really great question. What my experience is that I would tend to, at the end of things, the arcs, I would always start something new before the end because I didn't want to feel the sadness. And so, I think for me, I got so wired when my parents got divorced and they left that there was such an ending of a life, because my life before that was so comfy and wealthy and, like just so, and I took it all for granted. I mean, I had no idea. I thought this is what the experience was. And it was like, man, just in one night, like shattered and gone, like over. So I think there was a piece of me that just like, I don't like endings. I'll get out of here before the ending happens. I'll start something new. And so I've worked with that to let myself finish and have space, because what would happen with doing that, I would never allow space. I just always had to fill things up. And so in it, it's like, yes, now when a project finishes, I let there be like the fallow time. I let there be like, it's like a big out breath, before something new comes. And I've actually come to really like that. I've come to love that space where before it used to scare me. Yeah.
And so you talk about your parents being married and then they split and they left. So did you just not speak to them for a long time after that?
No, I spoke.
Did you still have a relationship with them?
Yeah, I mean, it varied. It was different with my dad than with my mom. My mom sort of disappeared in an odd way. It was so like Boulder 70s. It's kind of hard to give you the whole encapsulation of that. But it was a whole finding ourselves time, that kind of thing. And, she moved into a Hotel Boulderado, and out of the house. And, I'm trying to drop into what your question was. Yes, we did speak. In fact, I hung out with my mom. And, at that point, she started smoking pot, and, so we would drink together and smoke pot together. And, and she moved into her house, but her house didn't have any rooms for kids, which, I never even thought about it. None of us, said, whoa, Emperor has no clothes, right. What's going on with this house that has no rooms for us, And then my dad moved to California and, was trying to find a new wife and that kind of thing. And pretty much, and then just disappeared out of my life. Every once in a while he'd come into town, we'd do lunch, and it would be that sort of thing. It was very, very unsatisfactory, to me. My mom, through the whole thing, really loved us, even though she wasn't really capable of holding it together for us. So I always felt that her love was consistent, that she never stopped loving me. With my dad, it was a lot more complicated and a lot more, he really disappeared and we became invisible. And so he passed away a year ago, and, I just had a lot of anger come up. And that was really hard to feel. I wanted to just feel the purity of grief. And it was no, I'm pretty pissed off. And it took a while to let myself express out of that.
How did you get the compassion for your mom? Because of what I hear is that, yes, she did this, but you're able to kind of have compassion for that she couldn't, she couldn't give you what you needed,
Yeah. It's funny. It actually happened. I was in Peru. I was studying with a mystic down in Peru for a couple of years, and Don Americo Yabar. And he, very first day, took us into this cave. It's very Carlos Castanedas-like, I'm loving it. And he goes in and he said, okay, I want you to really conjure up, how, your parents need to be forgiven, really come up with it. And we dialogued a bit about it. And then he said, and now how do you need to be forgiven for how you've treated your parents? And it was what? That was so backwards for me, but there was something so healing, and it was I have been cold. I've been angry. I've been cold. And I went and apologized to my mom, after I got back from that trip. And boy, she wept, and it really opened places between us. And it was really me owning my side of the street, which was, yes, she did those things, but I was being condescending and cold. And not all the time, but I could easily go to it and I would feel justified because of what she did. And it was boy, we just cut that one. It was done. And now the agreement is loving kindness between each other, and we moved into a different kind of relationship. Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the, just these complicated parental relationships are one of the hardest to deal with. I have kind of similar stuff with my mom, and she left. I lived with her, and she left. It was one day, came home from school, she was gone. Went and lived with my dad, and then, eventually she came back, and now we have, we eventually had a relationship, and it was so much anger. I just carried that around, and then it was kind of the same thing of learning that, she thought that was what was best for me at the time, and she was doing what she could. She just didn't know. And so it took a lot for me, I think, to get over that. And I had to have this compassion and to try to see things from her point of view. Yeah. And so it's real hard to do, I think, sometimes. And like you said, and realize no, I'm not making anything any better.
Right.
By
I've got a side of the street.
Yeah. And it's you can't move forward until you do that.
Right. And that's the piece. I mean, the whole concept of my resentment is me taking poison to hurt you, and so I'm taking the poison of that resentment. And it's it was so freeing and liberating for me, to forgive. Yeah.
I am curious.
Yeah.
When and how did you meet your husband?
Oh. Wow. I was living with my girlfriend, and it was a bad situation. You know, it was in that era from 14 to 16 that it was kind of out of the frying pan into the fire situation. So I moved in with her, and I don't know how honest we're being in this.
You could be as honest as you want to be.
I was living with her in her bedroom, and her father was incesting her, and then he came after me, and then because I was upset about it, he said I couldn't live there unless I was going to go along with that, and so I needed to move out. And
how old were you there?
16 at that point.
Wow.
And I think I'm so old at that point. I don't think I can handle it. And and I had my girlfriend who I was with had actually met my husband. He picked her up hitchhiking, so she was hitchhiking. He picked her up because she missed the school bus because we were going to Boulder High, and anyway, he came by to visit her, and she had 5 boyfriends, and it was just such a messed up situation. But and he and I really hit it off. We liked each other, and the 5 of us, she and her sister, my girlfriend, her sister, and I, and then Roger, my husband, and his roommate, went out all the time together. Went dancing, went hiking a ton. And to be honest, we were doing a lot of drugs. We were doing a lot of psychedelics. So we'd just go out in the mountains and trip around. And everyone else liked to be inside, but my husband and I just really liked to be outside. So at that time, I just barely knew him, but we would just run around on the hillside together, tripping on acid. So really, that's how I met him. Well, there were a couple actually times that he came close to that.
Was he your age too?
No, he's 11 years older.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, we just hit it off, and then we really hit it off, and then it turned into, I needed to get out, and he said, "Well, come live with me. You can help me raise my kids. I got 2 babies," and that seemed like a really great idea because I really liked him. And then I moved in, and just over time, it's funny because Roger found a little coin, way back, and it said "one day at a time" on it.
Yeah.
And we had that in our living room for a long time. We were just like, one day at a time. We'll just see how this relationship goes, one day at a time. And 7 years later, and the kids growing and all that, we decided to get married. I actually proposed to him and said, "If we make it through our 7-year itch, will you marry me?" And he was like, "Yeah, I think I will."
I think there's something about that 7 years.
There
My
is.
husband
Yes.
and I got engaged after we'd been together for 7 years, and didn't you?
We're coming
Cora?
up on our 7
Oh, are
years.
you? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, but
yeah.
engaged 2 years ago. But we've been waiting, right?
Yeah.
Right. To make it through the 7-year
Yeah.
thing. I do
about
think
that.
there's truth to that. Yeah, and if you make it through, then you definitely have,
Yeah.
you have a better chance. This is yeah.
Oh, well, that's a great story.
Yeah,
And then
and
40 years. It's been
40 years, yeah. I mean, the
years.
cool thing is, I was blind. I was just such a, I didn't know anything. And honestly, the bar was so low at that point, who knew? But I ended up, being with and marrying a really beautiful human being, a very kind man, and, resistant and cocky and all that kind of stuff too. But
Is he creative like you? Does he
in a
are you
different
opposite?
way?
Oh.
He's very practical, and he builds homes. He's a GC, a general contractor, and did developments of houses and stuff. And always was very methodical. He'd be like, "Beck, just one step at a time," because I'm so visionary. It's like I'm like, "Well, we'll do that, and this will be cool," and, in 3 years, and and he's just do today, one day at a time. So he was really into that. And and his family. Oh my God, I just scored on my in-laws. I mean, my mother-in-law was a jackpot in life. And Roger and I made it through some ups and downs. There were some tough times, but we just always came back to the same thing. We believed in kindness, we believed in having fun, and respect. And I think we just kept coming around to that and do every day, actually, one day at a time, still. Yeah. So that's cool. And, his mom, oh my God, she lived to be 101. She passed away 3 years ago. And she was the first woman to graduate at Columbia
Oh, wow.
in the psych department.
Oh,
So,
neat.
She was valedictorian, just super smart. And she's about 4'10", itty bitty lady, and super positive. Just like, okay, like let's live this day. She always like dressed really nicely, and I'd come out dressed like I am, which I tend to dress. That's just what I do.
You always look fantastic. I admire your wardrobe very much.
I love clothes.
And your fries. I love your fry boots.
Thank you. I love clothes, and I always have. And I just thought, what the heck? At one point when I started living out loud again, it was like, yeah, why not? Life is short, get the dress, wear the boots, do the, be seen.
When you say like piece. Living out loud again, how did you do that?
One step at a time.
And you said going to therapy helped you?
Therapy definitely helped me. A big piece for me was getting sober. So getting sober and therapy, combination of the two, and, working out some real tight places around abandonment, around sexual abuse, poverty. I think those were, and I'm still working on some of that. I'm not done, I still am like expanding my relationship with money and that kind of thing. But it really was, it's one choice at a time, because like I'll go back now and I'll coach kids that are in, at risk, and they're in detention homes and that kind of thing. And I'll go do a concert like in their town, and then I'll do an outreach program with the kids. And coaching them, it's really like, hey, I was where you were. I was in a detention home, and how I got from there to going to the Grammys, or going to like living my dream has been literally one choice at a time. So one esteemable act to the next. And part of that was, what do I want? Knowing what I wanted and being in integrity around things. So telling the truth and, the basics. But sometimes when you get like a warped upbringing, those basics are kind of hard to find. So, that and help, help of mentors, help of other people that had been in my situation and had gotten themselves out. It's one reason why I love like working with kids that their voices are shut down on some level. That and adults that are grown, and I love working with sort of adults that kind of got messed up, somewhere along the way, like almost more than kids that have not had any like trauma or anything. It's not my forte. Like my genius is like, how do we undo your trauma and help you get free, And
do you help people learn just to express themselves, like by whether it's writing or playing an instrument? How do you do that?
Yeah, well, a lot of times do it with them getting up in front of a group, or privately. We'll do some private, but mostly I work with groups now. And it's having them get up and express themselves authentically, and then what comes up, like literally how their bodies will contract, and the fear signatures they'll go into. There's sort of tics and patterns that are our fear-based patterns. And I have all these tools from working with these amazing teachers for 25 years or longer that I bring to it, and they're play. So all these tools are really like games and playing. So and that's such a huge way of actually getting out of trauma is by play, by laughing and not taking so seriously, but being with the feelings that all come up. So
what got you into that? Like, did you just want to give something back?
I got into it really early. When I came back, when I quit singing, and coming back to it was a pretty pivotal, like transformative time. And I ended up going to Egypt with my mom, and it was totally weird. I was in college full time because I had dropped out of school, so I went to college 10 years late. And so it was a big deal for me to be in college. I was kind of learning quickly, and my brain was trying to catch up. And so I was in school full time. I had 2 kids. I had a part-time job. My in-laws were coming for Thanksgiving. I mean, there were so many reasons, like, you are not going. I didn't have any money, for it. And my mom, in her true, beauty, her strength of like, meditate on it and see what happens. And so I meditated, and it was one of the most lucid meditations I'd ever had. I mean, literally, like the Sphinx is talking to me saying, you must go to Egypt. It is life-changing. It will all work out. In 2 weeks, you'll have everything you need. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And within 2 weeks, people had given me money. I sold 3 paintings. It was just bizarre. It was like the whole thing came together. In-laws are no problem. We can do it without you. We'll come anyway. And And so I went to Egypt for a month, and then again by chance, they were doing sound studies in all the chambers, so all the temples along the Nile and in the pyramid. A harpist, professional harpist, was in there finding tones and recording.
What?
And yeah.
And you just happened to be there?
Happened to just be there.
Oh
and
my
my mom and I stumbled on it. We loved it because, we're like music, we speak that language.
Yeah.
And so we sang with this harpist in these temples, all the temples. Wow. And she recorded it. I have a recording of it. I mean, it's profound. And I wept. I sang and cried and sang and cried. And, that whole time.
Yeah.
And I came back and it was like, that's it. I'm back in. I'm going to do what it takes. And I took voice lessons, and it was about a year and a half of taking voice lessons because my voice was really held in, and I felt like I was taking snakes out of my throat,
Did you already know how to play the guitar?
No.
Okay.
No.
Oh, we're going to get to that.
Yeah, I'd been doing some of it. And, and so when I came back into it, I found a voice teacher, Divvy Nelson, and she was so good for me. She was really great. And she was teaching these classes, and then she offered teaching you to be a teacher. And so really before I came out professionally as a teacher the same time I came out as a professional musician. So those two have always been like really
parallel.
Yeah, so it was not like, oh, I want to help other people. It was more like, oh, this is all part of it.
Yeah,
and
it's just the path.
Yeah, and I love helping people find their voice. Like when somebody throws off a chunk of armor and they're more like in themselves and in their essence and like, their voice got bigger, or they're speaking more from their truth. They're more satisfied in their relationships. It's like, I just feel such a win in that. It's equal for me to what it is to be on stage and express myself on that too. So.
And what was the road like? So, like, you're the real deal. I just heard you talk about you've been to the Grammys. You won.
Oh, no.
No?
I went to the Grammys as a music appreciator.
Oh, yeah, but still, I mean,
I like you holding that of me winning a Grammy. Because we're going for it. We got a new album coming.
How did you sing with a band? You are Rebecca Folsom. Like, how did that happen? I mean, I've met my soon-to-be father-in-law. Happened to mention your name. I didn't say anything, and he said, "Oh, my wife and I, we just love Rebecca Folsom. She's at Nieces sometimes." And I said, "Oh, yeah, you know Rebecca Folsom? I happen to know her too. Oh, she is our favorite. We just love her.
Awesome.
Totally different universes, right?
Right.
So, how did that journey happen? How did performing and you go on tour? How did that happen?
Yeah,
that's like
each little
amazing.
Scary leap.
Yeah,
And it's like, oh, I want to do that, and or being jealous of somebody else, like, oh, they're touring, and then I'd be like, well, why don't I? Like, what does that take? Let's find out. It means doing a gig in another state. So okay, we'll start making that happen. And
the networking, and you just happen to meet the right people.
Yeah, some of it's that. My philosophy, and when I teach other people this, is that it's attraction rather than promotion. So it's like, you need your promotion. You got to have your PR together and all that. But it's like, if someone hears you and they're moved, and they feel like, oh, wow, I'd listen again, then they're going to want you. So it's like, get really good at what you're doing. Like, whatever you're good at and you love doing, then just get so good at it, just so that people can't turn away.
Yeah.
That it's that kind of thing.
Cool.
Yeah, and then there's the literal, okay, you have to get little press kits put together, and you got to send those out, and you get rejected a lot.
Baby steps.
Yeah, and then you take that gig that's kind of a funky gig, but, then it builds, and, you're singing to people that are all drinking and are not listening, and, and then you're, like, done with that, and so you have to let all that go and move into the concerts, and then it means you're scared because all that money that you used to make now is a whole different thing. And so there's often these leaps for me of faith of, okay, I want the next thing, the next growth, and to let go of the old and move into the new.
And how many CDs have you put out now?
13.
13.
Yeah, so 25
amazing.
years, 13. So it's
and you once
been over
wrote, I read this, a song a week for an
yes,
entire
for a
year.
Yeah, had 52 new songs.
Did you feel, were the creative juices going, or was it work?
It was sometimes it was work, but once I got going on it, it was like the pump was primed. You know, it was like there was just a feeling of that. You know, and it was really cool to write that many, but it also, I was really glad then when that was done. I was like, thank God that's done. But, you know, I had Sunday night as my deadline, so Sunday nights at like midnight, I was always up. You know, I sent it to someone in Nashville at that point. But I'm really enjoying this album that I'm writing for, because that was my last album, and it was all about quantity, you know, like a lot of songs and picking. And this is like just getting into the exquisiteness of like, no, it needs to be really refined, and going back in and reworking a chord and reworking a chorus. And I've really been enjoying like diving into the depth of each song and fine-tuning.
I think for me, I watched a lot of YouTube videos of yours, and like just your vulnerability. Like your voice is so beautiful, but it's like you make me, like I can feel feelings and things come up, you know. It's not like I'm just listening to some random song on the radio. Like there's emotion there, and it's like you convey that with just your lyric, with just you, and it's just you know, I think it's super special. It's something super special that I'm in awe of you.
Thank you. I love having evoking a feeling. Yeah, that's really important to me, through the lyric and through like the melody and through the performance of it.
And it shows, I feel like, that you I don't know, you give permission for me to feel feelings because you are feeling yours.
I love hearing that.
And that's super special.
That's part of my mission. So I'd love that. Yeah, I was just telling somebody the other day, it's like, I want people to cry and I want people to cheer. You know, I want people to be like, I can do it. You know, like there's that side, and also the side of like, oh yeah, I feel the heartache, you know, of life.
Yeah. You know, we were, you know, looking at songs and we're sending stuff back and forth, and like one of the songs is like, okay, this makes me feel feelings and this makes me kind of want to cry, and then there's the Wild Women song.
Right. It's like yeah, definitely got a group, a little herd of songs like Let's Be Too Much, Wild Women. I'm trying to think. Oh, there's a new one I'm writing. It's the title track to the new CD, and it's called Sanctuary. So that's another like, we can do it. We can make change, you know.
Yeah, and so it's like you have all of these emotions, and I think it's so inspiring for me as a woman and to other people too. I think of like, yes, you can have all of the emotions and you can feel them all, and they're all wonderful, and you can move through them, and they can move you.
Like alive. I think that's another life mission, is just like, how can I help people be alive, you know, through my own expression? How can I be alive? And then what am I doing that's not, you know, not along those lines? Like what am I always kind of checking that, like what is not life-giving?
When does that new album come out again?
In April.
In April.
Yeah, so we'll probably have some demos and things in the beginning of the year, January.
Right. Sanctuary. April 2020.
Yeah.
We got to keep an eye out for it.
That's right.
Do you have a particular inspiration for this album?
Very much so. You know, the times that are happening and the unrest, the pressing issues, all that. And I just felt into the sense of like, where is sanctuary? Like, that we each, you know, it really comes back to, am I a place of sanctuary? Am I a place of kindness and safe refuge? And together we create that. So we actually create places that are that, and so that those that are pushed to the margins or pushed on the outside for whatever reason have somewhere to come, you know, to be into that. And also our inner outsiders, you know, like I've been doing outreach programs that are part of this, and so I've been writing. I was doing outreach, open your voice workshops with kids that came over in asylum. So they were here from war-torn countries, and Syria and the Congo and the areas like that, and so they've been through a lot. And so we were doing just what we were talking about, moving through fear, accessing bravery, speaking for themselves, making choices, that they have a choiceful life. And then writing. I'm writing with a gal, Rakaya, and then it looks like we're going to be performing together in New Orleans to a big group, like 3,000 people, releasing that song. So, and that one, we haven't fully got what it is. We're still working on the chorus, like kind of the point of it. Another one I went into a maximum security men's prison, and I'm writing a song called Brothers about that, around the walls that men have put up around their training, about being tough and being. So where did they find sanctuary?
Did you speak with the men in there?
Yeah.
Or you taught them a class?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was there I'm allying with these social justice organizations too. So it's not just me and my skills. It's coming in like with the asylum kids. It's with IRC, International Rescue Committee, which is a very big, organization. And then the prisons is with ARI, and that's Authentic Relating Institute, and it's teaching human skills. And for these guys, it's so helpful because what do they say? It's 75% is the recommitting rate, and most of those guys are addicts. So the Brothers song is a lot about the walls of Jericho, breaking the walls down, and the walls of addiction, the walls of how we're kind of brick ourselves in. So, they're all different. We're doing one for the environment. We're doing one for women's rights. We're doing one for LGBTQ. I always have to think when I do those letters, because now that we added one, I get confused. And that, I'm writing with some trans people and some gender-neutral folks, and getting their perspective and my perspective and putting that all into the song. It's a song called Inside, Outside, Upside Down. And so it's going to be a really amazing.
It sounds amazing,
album.
And I can't wait.
Yeah.
I mean, it really sounds like it's just about like being human and bringing us all together.
Yeah, our common humanity
Yeah.
is really the whole point of it. It's like the sanctuary is the world, and
Yeah.
we are the one voice. So
I love that. I love it. I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
fun. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much for
nice
coming
to
on
be
here,
here.
Rebecca.
Thank
This
you.
is, I really believe, I feel really, really honored that you came in here and that you shared your gift with us and you sang for us. And I mean,
There's something about you. You're just larger than life. You really,
Wow.
it's
My
like
husband would be like, no, you should live with her.
there's just something about you that's just amazing. It's
Thank
just
you.
really,
Thank you.
angelic. I don't know what the right word is, but there's
those
this
earthy-
channel about you, and it really, just the way you speak. And again, that lyric, when you can spit out lyrics like that.
Thank you. I wonder, do you want me to close with like a little pice of Sanctuary?
That'd be beautiful.
love
Okay.
Beautiful.
I'll skip might as well just do it, right? Let's
it.
just do it. So I just finished writing this, so it might be a little rough in its transitions because I kind of changed it around, but we'll give it a good whirl here. Right. One voice rising in the darkness. One voice, no matter how small. One voice making a difference. One voice together answering the call. One voice, one world, one choice, love, show us how. In one world, we are brothers and sisters. One world, it's really rather small. One world, ours to care for. One world together, sanctuary for all. One voice, one world, one choice, love, show us how, and every wall that we break down, every hand that reaches out, everywhere that love is found, we're building a new dream. Every garden that we tend, every broken heart we mend, every battle that we end, we're building a new dream. One voice, one world, one choice, love. Show us how.
Yay!
It was missing a few parts
No,
there.
it was
but
beautiful.
singing those-
Never knew. It was fantastic. Then I was thinking, you write all your own music. You write your own chords.
Right.
It's amazing. It's amazing to me. I hang out with my dad guitar player, and I'm like, Rebecca is just, this is what she.
It's fun to
amazing.
put together, and it's so fun.
I'm in
when,
awe. I feel like a little girl. I'm like,
I know.
Yeah. Well, if you want to do it, you can learn to do it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I know.
thank you.
Thank
we'll
you
talk
so much,
more. I
Rebecca.
got to reach out to you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We think the
Thank
world
you,
of
ladies. Beautiful.
Oh my God,
This
that
is
was
so
amazing.
fun. Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you have an interesting story, something funny, something sad, something you want the world to know, please email us. We want you to share your experiences with us. We'll take these, we'll collect them, we'll do some episodes sometimes where we'll read them. So if you want to be anonymous, please just let us know. We won't read your name. If you want your name read, then we will. But send us those stories, comments to info@herturntotalkpodcast.com. And we also ask, if you like what you're hearing, please rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you.